Jagutpal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I will start first with a comment on what Honorable Utim said on my resignation as Minister of Health. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, Omia. It's Omia. All right, it's Omia. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will just relate something that happened in the year 2008 or 2007. There was a gynecologist working in the public sector. And that gynecologist, he was a public servant, and at that time, he was authorized to do private practice. Obviously, you get that privilege to do private practice. And then he took 2-3 weeks of sick leave. And during sick leave, you were supposed to stay at home. And what he did, he worked in the private sector. And he worked in the private sector. And no one was knowing about his working in the private sector. Sick leave and working in the private sector, yes. And what happening next? But no one was knowing. Obviously, no one is going to follow who is doing. And this gynecologist happened that whatever he was doing in the private sector, that patient did a complaint. And once this patient did a complaint, the complaint reached the authorities, and the authorities investigated. And there, that gynecologist was taken to task. Taken to task, the case was referred to DPP, and the DPP advised that he has to be taken to task and he has to be sued. And that gynecologist, you know what he did? At 4e vitesse, he left the public service. He left the public service, and at that time, during those days, the file, you know, everyone being a public servant, you have a file in your ministry, and the file disappeared. And you have no proof, you don't have anything. If you will go to the medical council, you will get the file, and you will know who is that gynecologist. And that gynecologist today, he is giving me the lesson that I have to resign. And that gynecologist today, he is giving me the lesson that, and what he did, he should have resigned. He should have resigned for what he has done, and today he's...
I seek your advice on a point of order. The Honorable Minister is referring to a gynecologist who's giving him lesson in this house. I know he's a mad psychiatrist, but I am the gynecologist who is sitting here. So he should know that I was never convicted of it.
Please. Did you say what kind of psychologist?
Okay.
Psychiatrist?
Yeah.
What word did you use? Mad? If that word, let me check, if that word was used, you better apologize if you use that word. If you didn't, let me check.
If I use the word mad psychiatrist in reference to the purpose of psychiatry, but I remove it, I remove it unconditionally.
Apologize for that.
No, I have removed it unconditionally.
You apologize, okay?
Of course.
Good. Now you continue.
Because, sir, you know, I'm a psychiatrist, and I used to see many patients who are really having mental problems. And whenever these patients come to me, they told me that, you know, I'm not mad. That is, the patient will say, I'm not mad, you are mad. And in fact, we understand that. Mr. Speaker, sir, as psychiatrists, we understand that very well. Who is mad? Anyway, let me continue, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I'll be back to my speech. The world is going through challenging times, and the last time that our planet was confronted to such crisis dates back to almost a century. That is the last 2 world wars. In 2 years, our planet has witnessed an unprecedented pandemic with COVID-19 coupled with the war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the ongoing closures in major cities. Global economy has shrunk due to lack of visibility, disruption in supply chains, increase in fuel price, increased freight costs, and this has resulted to inflation. This budget has succeeded in doing one crucial thing, which all governments around the world are trying to achieve. Budget has provided our citizens with resources to uphold their cost of living. Members of the opposition know that this budget succeeded in doing so. This is why they are so adamant on trying to prove the contrary during the debates. Once again, in psychology, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is called the denial stage. And they have once more reaffirmed this position. From walkouts, March Pacific, motion of no confidence to electoral petitions, the opposition is trying to find all means to destabilize this government. But they are lamentably failing again and again. I'll have to remind Honorable Omir that during the last parliamentary session, he came up with a motion of no confidence to this House against me. And then after a few weeks, he withdrew that. He should have come up with a motion of no confidence and not start doing politics on what he kept on saying. Mr. Speaker, sir, it takes compassion, understanding, and willpower to come up with such policies. It's only possible when we have a Prime Minister like Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat and a Minister of Finance like Honorable Padayachi. We did not act like opposition members when they were in power. During their time, in less critical situations, they came up with stimulus packages, additional stimulus packages, further taxes, and austerity. The champions of imposing taxes in Mauritius in front of me would have certainly introduced rural taxes. On the contrary, this budget is not only a no-tax budget, but it has also reduced and done away with 13 taxes like the municipal tax. This is a response of a government who knows how to be à l'écoute du peuple et qui sait comprendre les besoins du peuple. Such a response reflects our economy's resilience and not to what the opposition is alleging when they say our country is en banqueroute, that we are becoming like Sri Lanka. Our economy rests mainly on tourism, manufacturing industry, and financial sector. Above all, strong leadership and human resource remain the driving force of our economy. We on this side of the House are proud to serve under the able leadership of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat. We can understand the frustration of Honorable Shakil Mohammed, who cannot and is ashamed to give such credit to his leader. And yesterday, he pointed out to the Minister of Finance why we are giving all respect and all credits to our leader and our Prime Minister. Today, the opposition is claiming that this government has presented a budget with the sole objective of being re-elected. In fact, this is the opposition's only motive. This can be seen through their speeches where they adopt a stand only to secure their soi-disant political credibility. For the sake of their political survival, some are ready to sacrifice our social harmony and to tarnish the country's image internationally. We saw their attitude during the Wakasio incident. They participated in mobs in front of the line barracks. They portray themselves as sauveur of human rights, garant de la Constitution, but in fact their aim has consistently been to hinder all efforts to kickstart our economy. Tarnishing the image of our country internationally has direct consequences on our economy. They purposely went to such extents, even if it was a threat to our tourism industry and the employment of our brothers and sisters depending on this key sector. Yet, the same honorable members call themselves patriots. They claim that they are doing their duty as opposition members. In fact, they are only using their parliamentary immunity to ventilate baseless and unfounded allegations. Mr. Speaker, sir, coming back to my speech, be it staff from health sector, police force, local authorities, tourism industry, public servants, the government of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnnath has always given due credit to our working class. This budget is indeed with the people, for the people. It has paved the way for further economic growth, job creation, modernization of our amenities, and brought a shift to use of renewable energy. It follows all procedures established at all levels in our local laws. Listening to the opposition members again, they give the impression that projects like housing and land and drainage can be implemented overnight. No, Mr. Speaker, sir. I guess it has been a very long time since they haven't been in government. They have lost track of procedures and administrative purposes. This budget has set a roadmap for enhanced sustainability with a strong foundation for our sécurité alimentaire. Regarding health and wellness, Mr. Speaker, sir, the budget has increased from 13.1 billion rupees last year to 14.7 billion rupees. It's a testimony to this government's understanding of the necessity to preserve our welfare state. It emphasizes on the need for our nation to remain healthy with a constantly improving pandemic, with COVID-19 coupled with the war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the ongoing closures in major cities. Global economy has shrunk due to lack of visibility, disruption in supply chains, increase in fuel price, increased freight costs, and this has resulted to inflation. This budget has succeeded in doing one crucial thing, which all governments around the world are trying to achieve. Budget has provided our citizens with resources to uphold their cost of living. Members of the opposition know that this budget succeeded in doing so. This is why they are so adamant on trying to prove the contrary during the debates. Once again, in psychology, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is called the denial stage. And they have once more reaffirmed this position. From walkouts, March Pacific, motion of no confidence to electoral petitions, the opposition is trying to find all means to destabilize this government. But they are lamentably failing again and again. I'll have to remind Honorable Omir that during the last parliamentary session, he came up with a motion of no confidence to this House against me. And then after a few weeks, he withdrew that. He should have come up with a motion of no confidence and not start doing politics on what he kept on saying. Mr. Speaker, sir, it takes compassion, understanding, and willpower to come up with such policies. It's only possible when we have a Prime Minister like Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnnath and a Minister of Finance like Honorable Padayachi. We did not act like opposition members when they were in power. During their time, in less critical situations, they came up with stimulus packages, additional stimulus packages, further taxes and austerity. The champions of imposing taxes in Mauritius in front of me would have certainly introduced rural taxes. On the contrary, this budget is not only a no-tax budget, but it has also reduced and done away with 13 taxes like the municipal tax. This is a response of a government who knows how to be à l'écoute du peuple et qui sait comprendre les besoins du peuple. Such a response reflects our economy's resilience and not to what the opposition is alleging when they say our country is en banqueroute, that we are becoming like Sri Lanka. Our economy rests mainly on tourism, manufacturing industry, and financial sector. Above all, strong leadership and human resource remain the driving force of our economy. We on this side of the House are proud to serve under the able leadership of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat. We can understand the frustration of Honorable Shakil Mohammed, who cannot and is ashamed to give such credit to his leader. And yesterday, he pointed out to the Minister of Finance why we are giving all respect and all credits to our leader and our Prime Minister. Today, the opposition is claiming that this government has presented a budget with the sole objective of being re-elected. In fact, this is the opposition's only motive. This can be seen through their speeches where they adopt a stand only to secure their soi-disant political credibility. For the sake of their political survival, some are ready to sacrifice our social harmony and to tarnish the country's image internationally. We saw their attitude during the Wakasio incident. They participated in mobs in front of the line barracks. They portray themselves as sauveurs of human rights, garants de la Constitution, but in fact their aim has consistently been to hinder all efforts to kickstart our economy. Tarnishing the image of our country internationally has direct consequences on our economy. They purposely went to such extents, even if it was a threat to our tourism industry and the employment of our brothers and sisters depending on this key sector. Yet, the same honorable members call themselves patriots. They claim that they are doing their duty as opposition members. In fact, they are only using their parliamentary immunity to ventilate baseless and unfounded allegations. Mr. Speaker, sir, coming back to my speech, be it staff from health sector, police force, local authorities, tourism industry, public servants, the government of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat has always given due credit to our working class. This budget is indeed with the people, for the people. It has paved the way for further economic growth, job creation, modernization of our amenities, and brought a shift to use of renewable energy. It follows all procedures established at all levels in our local laws. Listening to the opposition members again, they give the impression that projects like housing and land and drainage can be implemented overnight. No, Mr. Speaker, sir. I guess it has been a very long time since they haven't been in government. They have lost track of procedures and administrative purposes. This budget has set a roadmap for enhanced sustainability with a strong foundation for our sécurité alimentaire. Regarding health and wellness, Mr. Speaker, sir, the budget has increased from 13.1 billion rupees last year to 14.7 billion rupees. It's a testimony to this government's understanding of the necessity to preserve our welfare state. It emphasizes on the need for our nation to remain healthy with a constantly improving quality of life. Out of this budget, some 8 billion rupees represent the salaries of some 15,000 men and women who make our public health sector. And what Honorable Utim and Fukyun earlier stated referred to as wastage of public funds. They are our frontliners for whom we are paying 8 billion rupees that represent their salaries, who have put their lives at risk to work during pandemic times. They were the ones who were looking after our patients, members of our family during lockdowns, when everybody was at home, and also during the surge of the Delta variant. They are the ones who adapted to a new situation overnight in order to protect our population while working in quarantine centers, while ensuring contact tracing and doing testing for COVID-19 and vaccinating our population. Yes, yet their reward from Honorable Utim and Fukyun, what is it? Wastage of public funds, flouting wastage. Today, we all know how lives have been preserved. Sorry. Thanks to them, our country is back on track and pursuing its stride forward. Our country is among the first in Africa in terms of vaccine coverage. If borders have reopened, our children are back to school. We are back to our daily routines. It is largely thanks to their efforts, to the efforts of the frontliners. And in spite of all of this, I really cannot understand why some haven't recognized their contribution. And again, we are wasting public funds. Instead of encouraging these heroes, some were only interested at a time in consent forms, fact-finding reports, as just stated, death toll, procurement of life-saving drugs, and even oxygen. And the latest accusation was that our staff, as yesterday pointed out by the honorable leader of opposition, at ENT, they were not trained. So at ENT, the staff were not trained. Thousands of patients have been at home, have recovered, and that's what we get from the honorable leader of opposition. What a complete lack of respect toward these health staff coming from the leader of opposition. The same Honorable Juval yesterday stated that at one time he stated that he would donate his end-of-year bonus to our frontliners. It's in the Hansard, and I invite him to confirm when he is going to do so. Mr. Speaker, sir, coming back to the budget of my ministry, some 3.4 billion rupees will be used for supply of goods and services, including medical supplies, drugs, and equipment. 2.5 billion rupees of the whole budget will allow us to finance capital projects. Government spending on health increased by nearly 60% over the past years, from 9.2 billion rupees in 2014 to 14.7 billion rupees this financial year. Yet, for Honorable Juval, the increase in the Ministry of Health budget represents nothing due to inflation. He should note that expenditure on health, as a percentage of GDP, it has improved from 2.4% in 2014 to 3.2%. Per capita government expenditure on health, which was around 7,200 rupees in 2014, is now at more than 11,600 rupees. As for capital expenditure, it has increased from 804 million rupees in 2014 to 2.5 billion rupees, representing an increase of over 200%. Mr. Speaker, sir, in countries like United Kingdom, this year, the government has to impose levies to sustain rising health costs. An additional tax of 1.45% was imposed on British citizens and residents. In Mauritius, it's the contrary. The government has ensured the continuation of free health care, which is used by more than 72% of the population, that is nearly 900,000 people, without having to have recourse to such drastic measures as we've witnessed it in UK, France, and even in USA. Mr. Speaker, sir, Budget 2022-2023 provides for specialists to be physically present in hospitals at all times. For years and years, we have had cases of medical negligence in relation to maternal and childbirth issues. When such incidents happen, some now readily position themselves as les plus grands défenseurs of future mothers and of our newborns. Some are now claiming that they brought such an innovation. These very individuals, when they were in power, did absolutely nothing. I am again referring to the Honorable Member Utim, that in the year, Omia, he may, the gynecologist, point of order, he may have forgotten about medical negligence cases in the 90s when pregnant women have lost their lives while delivering, and they did absolutely nothing. For the first time ever in the history of our public health service, this government, under the stewardship of Pravin Kumar Jagnnath and the Minister of Finance, is providing 24/7 specialist services in all our hospitals. And this Prime Minister and this Minister of Finance has done it. For some, even the very thought of such an advancement would not have crossed their minds. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 24/7 physical presence of a specialist in all hospitals will ensure timely healthcare delivery. Today, even if we go in private clinic, I'm sure Honorable Omia will agree with me, you will not have such facilities. I'm sure he's a gynecologist. He will also argue, I was waiting for that argument, that there was no provision for specialists to stay in hospital. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me remind the House that such provision, when specialists had to stay overnight, are already in place, especially during Class 3 and Class 4 cyclone warnings. Of course, we have to further improve the amenities. Mr. Speaker, sir, another landmark innovation in the public health sector is the introduction of primary coronary intervention. Let me explain how this measure will be a game changer. Our country has a high prevalence of non-communicable diseases, and cardiovascular issues remain the leading cause of mortality locally. This tendency has been noted for years, and the incidence of cardiovascular diseases in the youngsters is increasing. At this point, I do agree with Honorable Omia. Currently, most acute cases coming to our accident and emergency departments are treated with thrombolytic agents. This is drugs which dissolve clots in blocked arteries. Patients are admitted in coronary care unit for observation, for treatment, and then planned angiography, which is in turn followed by stenting, that is putting that réseau at a later stage. Just to highlight, the medication used for dissolving clots is very expensive. Primary coronary intervention works differently. In this case, once a patient is diagnosed with acute myocardial infarction, that is blocked arteries of the heart, as per the doctor, he or she may be taken for immediate angiography and stenting. This is what we refer, mettre réseau dans artère bouchée. This procedure will save more lives, allow us to decrease hospitalization time and cost as well. And to undertake such procedures, we of course need trained personnel.
We need angiography machines, cath labs, and we need the services to be delivered on a 24-hour basis. Thanks to the will of our cardiologists, Dr. Umesh Shamlal, Dr. Sunil Ganesh, and Dr. Rabindranath Jagesar, such services will be available on a 24/7 basis. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Finance, and this government, in its wisdom, have rightly allocated my ministry with the appropriate funds to make this happen. Once again, in spite of the complex worldwide situation, we in Mauritius are still being able to bring forth much needed innovation, what the opposition will never recognize. At present, primary coronary intervention is already available at G2 Hospital, and it will be introduced at Victoria Hospital and the Cardiac Center. I hope that again, they will not claim to be initiators of such project. Mr. Speaker, sir, another major issue, major measure announced in this budget is the shifting of long-stay patients who have recovered from Brownsacre Hospital to residential care homes. What this government is achieving today takes its roots back in 2012, when the then Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, proposed the concept of midway homes. Des belles intentions qui sont restées des belles intentions, Mr. Speaker, sir. This government is committed to do away with the marginalization of patients who have recovered from psychiatric illness. Patients have fundamental rights which have to be upheld at all costs. It's our duty as a society to contribute in doing away with discrimination and unwarranted taboos. A recovered patient cannot and should not spend the rest of his days admitted in a hospital. This budget will in fact allow more than 100 stabilized patients to be placed in residential care homes through the National Social Inclusion Foundation, NSIF, and NGOs. Ce gouvernement montre qu'il a à cœur se laisser pour compte depuis tant d'années. Monsieur le Président, grâce aux efforts combinés de notre ancien Premier ministre, Anirudh Jagnat, et notre Premier ministre, Pravin Kumar Jagnat, Maurice aura un Ayush Center at Côte d'Or. Mr. Speaker, sir, this budget remains in line with the government's ambition to decentralize, specialize, and modernize health services across the island. It can only be achieved through progress in infrastructure. Currently, my ministry operates some 7 specialized hospitals, more than 100 community health centers, some 20 area health centers, 5 medical clinics, as well as 1 hospital in Rodrigues, along with 11 community health centers and 2 area health centers. Though we have wide coverage, many of these buildings serve their purpose and have to be uplifted to meet the demands of a modern day medicine. I personally visited many health institutions, be it at Tamarin, Cas-Noyal, Chemin-Grenier, and so many others, where the infrastructure is no longer appropriate. The ongoing crisis has not been used as a pretext to sacrifice such vital projects. The buildings for the new cancer center at Solferino is already completed at 95%. Funds to the tune of 870 million rupees made available under this budget will allow us to procure high-end equipment, including 1 MRI machine, 2 3D linear accelerators, equipment for nuclear medicine, PET scan, and a high-dose rate brachytherapy machine, among others. Again, this investment is not wastage of public funds. Works for the new Flack Hospital are advancing at good pace, and more than 40% of infrastructural works have already been completed till date. The Ministry of Finance has earmarked a further 440 million rupees for the completion of the project, and the second phase of the project will be implemented under a public-private partnership. The contract for the new eye hospital which will be built at Rédu, has already been awarded. The budget provides for 192 million rupees to start the works. This budget is also earmarking funds for the new Mediclinic at Rivière-du-Rempart, which is at design stage. The Grand Bois Mediclinic, the new area health centers at Cupip and Bamboo, these projects have already reached tendering stage. Budget also provides for new community health centers at Cantourelle, Écoignard, The Vale, Glen Park, Casnoyal, Piton, and Tamarin. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to the needs of our dialysis treatment services, this budget is providing my ministry 20 million rupees for new hemodialysis center at SSR and hospital. 200 million rupees are also being made available for the setting up of the new renal transplant unit at Nehru Hospital, which is also at tendering stage. And part of the money will be used for a new neonatal ICU at Nehru Hospital. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government has recognized that given the aging of our population and the drop of our fertility rate, we had to act. Some months back, we inaugurated the first ever public fertility clinic of the island. And this budget will allow us to further develop these services. Not what Honorable Omia was saying, that the amount of budget being earmarked for 4 centers. Mr. Speaker, sir, the service provider, we will provide the services in the centers. But one at SSRN Hospital, there would be the main center, where we will have the laboratories and other specialized services, and not what he was saying earlier. Some months back, we inaugurated the first ever public fertility clinic of the island, and this budget will allow us to further develop these services. En ce qui concerne la formation, le ministère de la Santé a permis à plus de 1900 membres de son staff de se professionnaliser dans leurs domaines respectifs. Nous continuerons sur cette lancée et travaillons déjà avec nos partenaires locaux comme Polytechnics Mauritius, l'Université de Maurice et le MIH. Je félicite M. Matabadel et son équipe pour le travail formidable qu'ils font en termes de formation. Nous sommes aussi en train de renforcer nos accords avec des instances internationales comme l'Université de Bordeaux, le CHU de la Réunion et nos partenaires indiens et britanniques. In spite of these investments, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm sure members of the opposition will continue to compare us with Sri Lanka. Monsieur le Président, lors de mon exposé, j'aurai l'occasion de revenir sur d'autres mesures budgétaires axées sur l'amélioration de la santé gratuite. Je voudrais parler de l'achat de médicaments puisqu'il s'agit d'un budget d'1 milliard de roupies, et également sur l'achat d'équipements et d'autres produits de santé. Let me remind the House that the procurement procedures are established under the Public Procurement Act and date back to many, many years. And all honorable members who believe that there are lacunes, there are copains, copines, and whatever all they were saying, they should have been to the police. They should have come and declare it in the public and not only use immunity in this House to say whatever they feel. C'est vrai. Nous devons nous remettre en question sur l'achat des médicaments et d'équipements. Nous assumons nos responsabilités, que ce soit pour les respirateurs de plaque and blister, le molnupiravir ou encore l'allocation de contrats. Ce type de situations ne sont pas nouveaux et cela sous différents gouvernements. Ce n'est pas seulement, c'est maintenant. Laissez-moi vous donner quelques exemples. I insist, I have no intention to defend or to look for excuses or to put the blame on others. Revenons donc aux exemples. In Audit Report 2006, I quote, biomedical and high-tech equipment were procured to the tune of 80.4 million rupees. Information on equipment was missing. There was no evidence of physical verification of the assets. Incomplete record and inadequate control lead to poor safeguard and maintenance of these assets. The National Audit Office informed the ministry to take remedial measures, but 1 year after, the office advised nothing was done, rien. Mais l'honorable Duval, l'honorable Mohamed, l'honorable Boulel, l'honorable Duman et l'honorable Omir ont à plusieurs fois fait référence à l'achat des respirateurs avec pack and blister. Mais qu'est-ce qu'ils vont dire sur le 80,4 millions de roupies gaspillés en 2006? Est-ce que vous avez continué de penser en dehors du boîte? Je me demande maintenant. Is it not, at that time, is it not dilapider les fonds publics? Is squandering public funds? I'm asking Honorable Utim. I could have made reference to these cases well before, Mr. Speaker, sir, but purposely I haven't done so, not especially for political mileage, but I did not, I will explain to you later. I will now quote the audit report of 2009. 10,346 boxes of test strips to determine glucose in blood worth 2.6 million rupees had to be discarded. This was found it was found that glucometers were in fact not meant for use in hospital. L'honorable Ganga Prasad peut-il nous dire si c'était des stocks fictifs ou fantômes? Can he inquire from his seniors who were at that time in power? What have they done when they have noted such discrepancies? Honorable Mohammed, unfortunately he's not here. When you lost election, you challenged the leadership of your party. But then, when you were in government at that time, maybe he was minister, you did not dare to question such gaspillage. Where were you? Mr. Speaker, sir, at that time, was it not chaos at the ministry? What yesterday Honorable Mohammed was saying? Let's go back once more to the audit report of the year 2009. Drugs evaluated at 4,8 million rupees. So 4.8 million rupees were purchased for 27,7 million under emergency procurement. So now let's, at that time, this was the year 2009. Drugs again procured under emergency procurement at more than 12 million rupees had to be discarded. Where is Honorable Juman left? During the same financial year because of short shelf life. So he has to go and do that, some research, and I believe they will come up and tell us what happened. Honorable Leader of Opposition était au gouvernement à cette époque. Il était ministre à cette époque, si je ne crois pas. Oui. Est-ce que l'expert comptable peut nous dire combien ces 39 millions de roupies peuvent bien valoir aujourd'hui? Parce que you talk about depreciation of rupees, you talk about devaluation et tout. Quelle était la valeur de ces millions jetés à la poubelle à cette époque? So you keep on referring to National Audit Report. I will give you more. C'est ça le résultat de résultat, low résultat. That's what was he used to say, résultat, low résultat. And at that time, Mr. Speaker says there was no COVID. There was no pandemic. Then maybe the virus of COVID was already here. And this is why they avail to emergency procurement. Again, I will come up to some audit report. Contracts worth to 3 million rupees for the cleaning of 7 hospitals were awarded to companies with no experience in such services. And in spite of recurrent complaints on their service delivery, their initial contract of 3 months was prolonged to 1 year. Now, unfortunately, Honorable Juman is not here. Est-ce que Honorable Juman peut informer la Chambre si c'était des bijoutiers ou des employés de Quincaillerie qui ont eu ce contrat? He should have come and tell us because he used to say bijoutier and Quincaillerie. Come now and tell us. I hope Honorable Utim is also listening carefully. And maybe he can inform us whether that these companies had d'huile dans les oreilles. I don't know. So I'm just referring to that time. Now, was Honorable Juman aware of such happenings? Or at that time, he was busy paying his fines for bribery at that time? We know that what he was convicted for. He himself said that he had all information from the Ministry of Health. He said so. Maybe he has access to leaked documents, maybe. I can't control each and every stuff, which he then brings to this house and we know about it. In fact, today itself, I received a text message on my phone from my staff informing that they believe that someone in the ministry is playing some manigance. So this is the level. This is the level, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would also ask Honorable Juman why he remains silent on companies who have been defaulting. For example, what Honorable Omia said, delaying delivery of clopidogrel since December 21. They will not come and ask me a question about this. During his speech, I will see if he chooses again to be selective on some companies. Let's wait. Why is he remaining chup-chap on this company who defaulted in the supply of heparin? Again, this is what just stated by Honorable Omia. I did have this information. With time, I'm going to give you all the information. Listening to Honorable Juman last time, it is as if he knows everything. At what time I reach the office, at what time I leave, at what time I have lunch, and even at what time I do go to the restroom. Now, speaking of which, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me take the honorable member to the audit report of 2010. In 2010, the Ministry of Health procured 220 toilet sets to be installed in regional hospitals. And in 2012, the National Audit Office took them to task and underlined that in 2 years, only one toilet set had been installed. So what happened there? This is their level of professionalism. This is what they were doing. They should have also come at that time and give their views. Now I will invite Honorable Gangaposad. He also left. Why everybody is leaving? There was no point of order from the honorable. Anyway, now I will invite Honorable Gangaposad to kindly go back to his own queries made during the supplementary appropriation 2021-2022. Was it incompetence or not? Was it lycéen PV saucisse? At that time, there was no lycéen and no saucisse. Can he inform the House what discrepancies were noted? The discrepancies represented what sum of money? How come such discrepancies occurred? I'm just giving the same question what he said, he put to me last time. And why no initial due diligence was carried out? What sum of money was recouped for the payments made? Il n'y avait pas de guichet automatique. Someone said that government has a guichet automatique, and then that's what we were doing. I am putting this question to him now. And I will add one more question. Why were there absolutely no policies? This is a government's job. And to take decisions to address those issues. There now I will come, why I said in the earlier, why before I did not come out with that. The opposition is running out of arguments. And the latest comment made by the leader of opposition is a clear example. Mr. Speaker, sir, give me some time. I'll have only 5 to 10 minutes. I will go back to Honorable Duval's comments on Kukuruku. Even he doesn't know to differentiate between Cocorico and Kukuruku. So yesterday, he made that. So I'm sure, even Honorable Omi also made that. I'm sure many of us are fans of late Kishore Kumar's and the hit song of the Indian blockbuster Bombay to Goa, starring Amitabh Bachchan, s'il vous plaît. Is it a sin to celebrate Christmas at a cousin's place singing Kishore Kumar songs with my family? Or should I inform the House how many members of this House have publicly been in public gathering without mask? Should we remind Mr. Honorable Omir that he was himself in a child gathering to celebrate New Year party in a restaurant without mask? Should I remind you? Is this Hindi song, Mr. Speaker, sir, coming back to Kukuruku, is this Hindi song so bad? Is late Kishore Kumar so bad? Should I dance Macarena on the beach with you? With who? Should I do that? Mr. Speaker, sir, if you don't like Kukuruku, fair enough. But I think next time I will dance Macarena on the beach with whom I don't know. Should I spend holidays in Swiss Alps with who? I don't know. But unfortunately, I will keep on singing Kukuruku and I will keep on dancing with my family for the New Year and Christmas party. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's not over with Kukuruku. At least I can sing Kukuruku. But PMSD so cook in arrêt de santé lui-même. So this is not my problem, Mr. Speaker, sir. So if it's for all these years, Mr. Speaker, sir, in 5 minutes I will get over with my... Mr. Speaker, sir, now I'll come seriously. For all these years, they were in power. And in spite of all these points highlighted year in year by National Audit Office, they remain idle. As I stated earlier, there is a reason why I have not made reference to all these scandals earlier, not for political mileage or to look for an excuse. We in this government chose to work instead of indulging in demagogy. And what we have done, I will tell you. We have identified shortcomings. We need proper stock management of medicine. We need proper stock monitoring for expiry drugs. And we need to ensure that suppliers are not defaulting. Since January, my ministry is already working with the OPSG, Office of the Public Sector Good Governance, to enhance procedures and adopt best practices in procurement procedures first. Second, we are conducting an inquiry on stock management through our internal control at the Central Supplies Division. Third, we are coming up with a modern warehouse at Côte d'Or. Fourth, we are working with the Ministry of Finance and to separate the procurement of medicine, consumables and equipment from the ministry. This will henceforth be done on a separate, independent body. In fact, yesterday itself, officers of my ministry and myself had a meeting with officers of the Ministry of Finance and the State Law Office, and also officers of the Public Procurement Office to work out the modalities to separate this entity. Hopefully, this may come up in the finance bill as a new measure. This entity will also work out on procurement of drugs on a G2G basis. Regarding expired drugs, yes, we have discarded pharmaceutical products, but the opposition should know that these expired products have been accumulated since 2013. Even between 2003 and 2013, the same pattern was observed. Mr. Speaker, sir, so this present budget, I will conclude by, I have so many projects, but unfortunately I don't have that much time. I've been reminded that I have hardly few minutes. I will only say that I have to reply to few comments made by Honorable Omir. Selon nos estimations, plus de 28% de notre population sera âgée de plus de 60 ans d'ici 2040. Mon ministère et l'OMS travaillent dès maintenant sur le ICOP Strategic Plan. Un National ICOP Committee a déjà été mis sur pied à cet effet. Et puis, Monsieur le Président, let me conclude, probably. Monsieur le Président, ce gouvernement restera dans l'histoire comme le gouvernement qui a introduit l'usage du cannabis médical à Maurice. La mise en œuvre de tous ces projets n'aurait été pas possible sans le soutien indéfectible de notre SI, Mme Sue-Rotten, le Dr Horry, le Dr Carlessa et toute l'équipe administrative du ministère. While the opposition was busy with its baseless accusation, the Ministry of Health won the gold, silver and bronze prizes in the Public Sector Excellent Award this year. The jury was composed of captains of the private sector. Monsieur le Président, vous noterez que je n'ai pas abordé notre gestion de la COVID ni notre campagne de vaccination citée comme exemple par les institutions internationales. Ceux qui ont la critique facile aujourd'hui avaient eux aussi la possibilité de bien faire sans pandémie ni guerre. Je veux terminer par féliciter le ministre des Finances pour l'équilibre qu'il a su trouver entre le social et les réalités économiques. Je suis fier de compter parmi mes colistiers l'honorable Padeati et grâce à nos efforts communs, y compris le PPS Raoult, la circonscription numéro 13, comme l'ensemble de notre pays, n'a pas été délaissée. Je tiens aussi à remercier le Premier ministre, l'honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat, pour sa vision, détermination et passion à diriger notre pays vers le chemin du progrès. Ce n'est pas pour rien que l'honorable Padeati a été élu meilleur ministre des Finances africain. Ce n'est pas pour rien que le gouvernement de l'honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat a été classé premier en Afrique et dans les top 15 du Good Government Index de l'Institut Chandler. je dirais merci à nos frontliners et à notre population. Ce gouvernement continuera de travailler dans l'intérêt de chaque Mauricien et c'est encore une fois ensemble que nous allons poursuivre notre avancée vers la modernité et progrès. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Order.